God has blessed my life in many ways, one of which 25 plus years ago, I asked a lady that's here among us to join me and be my partner in life. She said, "Don't you need some young, sweet preacher wife kind of person?" I said, "No, I need you." Amen. Amen. And she has shared her heart with me and with the churches that we've been privileged to serve, and now with all of you. I want to thank her this morning. Yes. In the last many months, couple, 2-3 years, God has brought some other ladies into my life who've had an important part in why we are all here today. One of them we heard from the first Sunday in May, our visionary district superintendent in the United Methodist Church here in the Anderson District, Reverend Susan Leonard Ray. She could not be here today because of another commitment, but she is here, she says, in her heart with you all. And I want to acknowledge the great contribution she's made to this day being this day. Another young lady, still like I say young, who has had a very vital role in why we're all sitting here today, is here among us out in the congregation, Ms. Carol Burdett. Yes. An equally visionary leader who was willing, as the leader of United Way of Anderson County, to say, we'll step way out of the box as the United Way and we'll help get a church started. And it's happened. Yeah. And the other lady of God, who's been a central part of our being here in this place today, is the Reverend Sara White, who leads the congregational development effort of United Methodists all across the state of South Carolina. Her voice in this, her support in this has been invaluable. And so I'm so glad that she could be here today to represent the United Methodist Annual Conference and to represent congregational development and to share God's Word with us. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm always afraid I'm going to break the microphone. Okay, sound check. Can you hear me? Okay. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I am so delighted on so many levels. Congregational development is, for some groups, a funding source that provides money, cash. Never enough of it, but what we can, given by United Methodists all across the state of South Carolina. And so when I was walking up and down the aisles, introducing myself so you would have some sense of why I was preaching and why he was not, because I'm aware of how you feel about him and I didn't want any hostility or any more than I needed to have. I was introducing myself and someone said, "I remember who you are because you are our bottom line." And I said, "Well, actually, no, you're my bottom line." Money that is used in the wrong way is evil. Money that is used just in a good way is all right. But funding and money that is used to a higher purpose, that is the profit of money. Amen. The bottom line is not how much of it there is. The bottom line is what you have done with what you have. And so I would say that we all are the bottom line as we talk about what it means to be faithful to God. Now that's my final talk about money. Just remember it when you need some. I am in such appreciation of you as a congregation. You've been so welcoming to me this morning, and I appreciate it a lot. I'm in such appreciation of your pastor, who works really hard. And has a joy in that work. And that's why I picked that particular passage from the book of Philippians for today, because it talks about what it is like to be putting what you have in the right places. And it also talks about putting what you don't have in the right places. But I believe that your pastor is someone who is very well aware of what he has within himself, the gifts of God, and out of himself, within the gifts of this congregation, and I believe he leads you in putting all of those gifts in the right places.
Yes.
And now the poor choir will always be sitting behind the preacher from now on, because there won't be seats out there. Isn't that a great problem there? This was a very long time ago that this story happens. I was a much younger person when this story happens, and I was getting ready to go to my first appointment, which is the Methodist way of saying that the bishop had appointed me to these 4 little churches in the country of Orangeburg County. 4 of them, yeah, you heard that right. And the United Methodist Church has a personnel committee that has a very fancy name, but basically it's a group that is supposed to be the bridge of communication between the pastoral leadership and the congregation. And so my district superintendent was taking me to meet this group of people, to be introduced to them, to have conversation with them, because quite frankly, in those days, I was by far the only woman preacher that any of them had ever hoped or dreaded to see. So when I walked into that room, a group that was supposed to be 9 people strong was 25 strong. Every church had brought almost 9 people to that meeting, just to make sure, to check it out, and to make sure that their voices were heard. And one of the things that they said to me that night was, "We do not understand why we have to take the bottom of the barrel. We do not understand why the bishop is asking us to take who is left over." And those were the sound bites that you remember. The meeting was 2 hours long, so there had to be something else they said. But all of these years later, I still remember that. And what it felt like, as I have told the story to others, I had seen their former pastor, and I thought, my goodness, I might have a chance at being as good as that. But that night, that was there, shutting the door on me. I tell that story because I don't believe that there are many people, including the 100 or so that are gathered in this room, who have not experienced some time in their life when somebody shut the door on them. When somebody said to them that, "I am not interested in what you have to offer. I'm not sure what it is you've got to offer, but something about you and the presentation of what you're offering, there's just something about that. I don't want that." We start that young. We do. We talk about our BFFs. Got to be best friends, can't just be friends. We talk about our clubs, we talk about the groups that we belong to, the places that we go, And we begin to set up these parameters and these walls around ourselves, and pretty soon we have enough doors that no matter what our station in life, how old we are or how young we are, how rich we are, how poor we are, pretty soon most of us come to a place in our lives where we can be a door slammer ourselves. But we certainly know what it feels like to have the door slammed on us. It's an interesting thing to read the book of Philippians. It's only 4 chapters. And it's easy to read because it's a very personal letter that Paul writes to this group of Christians. And in this letter to the Philippians, you begin in the midst of all his praise, in the midst of all that he speaks of. And as always, Paul's main topic of conversation is Jesus Christ, and who Jesus Christ is, and what Jesus Christ has done for him. But in the midst of all of that, he is lifting out to the people of Philippi that Jesus Christ has done so much for him because he has been able to share Christ with others and to allow others to share Christ with him. He did not start out as an apostle. For those of you who have read the New Testament, please excuse me for a second while I give a short biography of Paul. Well-educated, successful businessman, righteous believer, firm holder of belief, and opponent of Jesus Christ. Opponent of Jesus Christ to the point where he would actively go out and seek persons who were followers of Jesus Christ in order that he might harass them, attack them, and he even admits that he stood by and watched as a mob killed one of them. And at that point in time was not ashamed of being there. As he left the city and he traveled along a road with a group of people, Jesus Christ appeared not to the group but to him. And he was struck down by the glory of God. And in that striking down, God not only took him, we always think of him riding. I don't know why. Most people didn't ride in those days. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he did not fall off the horse. I'm going to say he just went down on his knees in the road. And when he got up, he could see nothing. He had been blinded by the sight of God. And he had to go and be instructed. Now, can you imagine going to the people that you had attacked and saying, "Help me, teach me about Jesus"? But that is what he did. That is his biography. And the book of Philippians is written to a church at Philippi. And it is a book that is written while Paul's in jail. He's in prison several times in his life because he always preaches about Jesus. And not everybody wants to hear about Jesus. Not everybody wants to hear about God who calls you to love everybody. Not everybody wants to hear about a God who is so powerful that he can take a man down into the dirt on a Damascus road and bring him up and make him into a preacher and a powerful messenger of God. Not everyone wants the competition. And many times in Paul's life, there were people who came against him, quite frankly, because Christians pooled their money together and they used their money for good causes instead of spending it in stores. And that was a problem. And so here he is in jail. And he has felt forgotten. That's a theme kind of throughout the whole book. that he has felt forgotten while he was there. And he has counted on people to remember him, literally, because in those days, if people did not remember you and bring you food and bring you things for your comfort, you didn't get them. And so we can gather that Paul may have been in a little bit of want while he was in jail. But now he feels remembered. Now he feels that they have remembered that he is there, and they have literally come to him, and once again they are looking to make him comfortable, and once again they are claiming him as their own. And he is able to give testimony to what it means to have been forgotten and then to be remembered. To have the door shut. And if you've ever been in jail or walked into a jail, there is no more solid sound in the world than that door shutting behind you. He's heard it. And all of a sudden, that door has opened up, and the people that he has loved and cared for have appeared with him again. And he has this new testimony to give to them. I've been here, forgotten, hungry, in need, and now you have come to me and I've been remembered. But let me tell you that I survived being forgotten by you, because God remembered me. And that I have filled this place, including every inch of myself, with the knowledge that God is here with me in this place. And he says, let me tell you what I've thought about. I have thought about truth, and I have thought about honor, and I've thought about justice. I've thought about purity, and I've thought about beauty. I've thought about good things, and I've thought about a more excellent way, and I've thought about praise. And as I have thought on these things, the God of peace has been with me. He has opened in this locked up place himself the doors of his heart to God. And God has responded and has met him in that place. I'm embarrassed to say, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm old enough not to use Facebook. You know that none of your teenagers still use Facebook because all the old people now use Facebook. They have moved on to other things. But I was looking at Facebook this past week, and I saw just these little blurbs that people are always putting on your wall, and this one said, if a door is closed, pray in the hall. And I love that. Now that's practical advice. Thank you very much. That beats the heck out of all those diet advertisements that I'm reading these days. If the door is closed, pray in the hall. And Paul has been praying in the hall. He's been praying for those who've forgotten him, and he's been filling himself up with these prayers for the church of Philippi. And I've got to admit that I would have read the first part of the chapter, but I was afraid I was going to have to read, and I don't know how to pronounce the names. But if you go back to the first of the fourth chapter of the book of Philippians, you will find that he is particularly worried about them because they are shutting the door in each other's faces. He calls out these two sisters by name. Well, they're not sisters, but you know, sisters in Christ. He calls them out by name and says, tell them to stop with one another. Help, and you who are their brothers and sisters in Christ, help them stop, because their names are written in the book of life. To me, that's a powerful word for a man who talks about filling yourself up with grace, because that's a pretty fine way to think of one another. And this brings me to your anniversary. In the New Testament, Jesus looks at a woman named Martha and says to her,